Parshas Mishpatim, Tavshin Ayin Vav. Here we are another week, Shabbos, Levorchem, Adar Rishon. And it's a good thing it is a leap year. It's a good thing it is Shana Mubarak, because if it wasn't, Purim would be about 2.5 weeks away. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not ready for Purim yet. To me, I'm still feeling the warmth, the light of Hanukkah, the donuts, the calories. We still have to run off another couple of weeks, and then we can get into the Hamantashen. Very interesting Gemara. Gemara Masechta Bava Kama, Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. And the Gemara tells us, Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Haiman deboi lemehevei chasida, somebody who wants to be a chassid. And whatever a chassid means, we'll explain later, but suffice it to say, it doesn't mean chassid as we would normally translate it today, as somebody who puts on a shtreimel and follows a rebbe. That's not the chassid we're talking about right here, although that may be a wonderful thing, but that's not what the Gemara is referring to right here. Haiman deboi lemehevei chasida, somebody who wants to be a chassid, what should he do? Lekayim mili dinizakin. You want to really be a chassid? You know what you do? Be mekayim things that have to do with nizakin, with damages. Very cryptic Gemara, and we're going to explain. We're going to have some beautiful explanation into this in a moment. Gemara continues. Rava Omar. Rava says that somebody who wants to be a chassid, what should he do? He should follow mili the avois, which is a little bit easier to understand, right? Somebody who wants to be a chassid should follow what it says in Pirkei Avos. And in Pirkei Avos, we know it teaches you about midos, about different ways of acting. Somebody who wants to be a chassid, Rava says, follow mili the avos. The Amrila ends the Gemara, one more shita in what a person should do if you want to be a chassid, mili the brachos. That somebody should be somebody who gets himself used to saying brachas, blessing Hashem. Also something that is a little bit easier to understand. So really, it requires a little bit of explanation, especially the part that we mentioned first about one who wants to be a chassid, be mekayim mili dinizakin. Those of us who learned Bava Kama, you understand this week's Parsha, Parshas Mishpatim, talks so much about what you do, what you have to pay, what happens when a person damages, when something is damaged. So like this. The other two things, the things that we mentioned, somebody who's being mekayim mili the avois, where we tell you to follow Pirkei Avos, okay, that we can understand. That's something that you follow the lessons of Pirkei Avos, that you're being meticulous about your midos. We understand that. Brachos, we can also understand. Somebody's being very meticulous about brachos. Also, we can understand why maybe he'll be called chassid. But what does mili dinizakin have to do with chasidus? Nizikin and chasidus, for some reason, doesn't seem like it really fits in. Why would it be different than any other monetary dispute in the Torah where there's no chasidus involved? You know, there's something called the rule of the law, the letter of the law, that if you damage somebody, you have a chiyuv and you have a din how to act, that you have to pay up. That's what it's called. It's not called chasidus, it's a din. The Torah tells you damage somebody, there's a certain amount, you have to pay. So first, Nesivos Shalom says something very beautiful, al pi derech ha'avoda. Just in this whole inyan, I just want to mention before we get started into the actual answer to this question. And he says like this, we know the Gemara, the Mishnah in Bava Kama starts off, Arba Avos Nizikin, that there are 4 main categories in damages. And for those of us who learned Gemara, this is very familiar. But for those who haven't learned the Gemara, and we know that there are many people who watch this year around the world who may have learned this Mishnah, the 4 main damages are Shor, Bor, Maveh, and Hever. We're going to explain what they are. And these things, says in the Nesivos Shalom, these 4 things can represent the 4 ways of the Yetzer Hara. And what are they? He says like this. Shor represents gaiva, a person that asserts himself a little bit too much. That's Shor. Bor is something else. Bor represents the opposite. Bor represents a person who, you know what, he does things wrong, and then he gives up. And he's low, like a bar is deep into the ground. Sometimes you have a person that he does things wrong, and he says, God doesn't like me anyway. It's enough. And he throws in the towel, and he gives up. He has yish. He just gives up on the whole thing. That's bar. When a person feels low, and he falls into despair, and he's ready to give up. And then, we all know that that's very bad also, because that can lead a person to many averas. Once you give up, it's really not good. Maveh, what's maveh? Maveh, the Gemara says, is shame. Shame, we know, is something, it represents the taivas achila. Someone that may be glutinous, somebody that eats too much or eats in the wrong way. And hever, something that has to do with fire, hever alludes to the Yetzer Hara in general that burns inside a person. So it says in the Nesivos Shalom, Hai man d'meveh chasida. Somebody who wants to be a chassid, al piderech ha'avoda he taiches. Someone who wants to be a chassid should be mikayim mili b'nizokim. Uproot these four things that we just said. Uproot these four roots of Ra that are found in a person, and that's how you become a chassid. Understand that these are the four things that can make a person fall down. Okay, so now, what is the definition of a chassid? That's, I'm sure everybody's anxiously awaiting the answer to this question. So really, chassid, the root of the word, comes from the word chesed. But what does it mean? It doesn't just mean someone who does chesed, and we're in a very appropriate building once again, Bikkur Cholim here. It doesn't just mean a person who does chesed. Ish ha-chesed. Nesivos Shalom says that chassid means somebody who his whole mahus, his entire being, turns to a person who does toiv v'chesed. Not just that you casually do chasadim, but it turns the person, a chassid is someone who his whole inner being becomes one who does chesed. And thereby, since you become an ish ha-chesed, you act in ways that perform chesed. We're not just saying here somebody who wants to do mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. That's a good person, but that is not a chesed. We're talking here about a person who wants to change his root to be one of totally good. And it follows then that you will do good, because if you become a person and you change yourself to a person that is doing good, becomes good, you're going to be a person that does good things. So the Gemara that we mentioned, the Baba Kama Daf Lamed Amud Aleph, when the Gemara says, Hi, man, the boy, the meveh chasida, a person who wants to be a chassid, it's specifically says in Nesivos Shalom, we're not saying a person who does good things. What we're saying is, we're talking about a person who becomes fundamentally good. And that's really, really what we're talking about. It's that type of chassid. There's a maral that we've mentioned a few times over the years, and it's very kedai to say over this maral. The maral in Derech HaChaim in Avos Perek Aleph says the following. He says that if a person wants to be a complete person, a real person in life, you need a three-pronged approach. And what is that three-pronged approach? He says you need to accomplish three things. First of all, a person has to be Sholem beinoy levein boiroi. You have to be whole or complete, and then we're going to explain again what this means in a moment. You have to be whole and complete, and I understand this year is a little deeper sometimes than we speak, so you got to think, and it turns out beautiful. He said the person has to be whole between himself and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's one way. The second thing is the person has to be Sholem beinoy levein chaverov. You have to be whole, you have to be truthful, you have to be complete between a person and their fellow man. And the third thing is, which is sometimes the most difficult to accomplish, is a person has to be whole with themselves. You have to be Sholem beinoy levein atzmoi, where you yourself, you're at whole, at peace with what you are doing. And those are it says Nesivos Shalom, these three things of the Maharal, we can plug them into the Gemara that we mentioned. The three different ways that the Gemara mentioned that a person turns himself into a chassid. And what are they? How does a person become a different person? You want to change, you want to improve, you want to be a chassid, you want to be someone who is fundamentally good. How do you do that? So Rabbi Yehuda, the first man, the Omer in the Gemara, said, L'kayim mili d'nezakin. Be mekayim mili d'nezakin. What does that mean? You know what that is? Says in Nesivos Shalom, he says that's one of the shitas, one of the things that the Maral says, and that is shleimus shalem im chavera. where a person is whole with his friends. And what does it mean that a person is a true friend? What does it mean that a person is whole with fellow man? You know what it means? It doesn't mean that when you damage somebody, and when you hurt somebody, and you say something hurtful to somebody, and you do something wrong to somebody, a real man, a real person who is whole with his friends, we're not just talking about that you're a person who apologizes and makes it good. Many times if people think that you do something wrong, you damage somebody, or you really hurt somebody, you say something hurtful, so you apologize, and in our world today we say, oh, I apologize, and you think, okay, we repaved the road, we did it over, but no, that's not being whole with friends. You know what being whole with friends is? Being whole with friends is not being someone that appeases your friends. That's me'ikar hadin. You did something wrong, you need to pay back. You need to apologize. You need to appease yourself. You know what Chasidus is when it comes to friends? Says in Nesivos Shalom. You know what it is? It's a person who makes sure that you never ever get to the point where you're going to have to apologize. You never get to the point where you're going to hurt somebody. You want to be a person that's fundamentally inside, a person that's fundamentally good, that's sholem im chaverov. You want to be mekayim mili dinizakin. You want to be a person, not someone who just pays back when you damage somebody. You want to be a person that never gets to the point where you even contemplate saying something hurtful to somebody else. That's what we mean by a chassid and mili dinizakin. A person who pays back is a person who's doing what's right. You're paying back. The Torah said, you damage somebody, you say something wrong, yes, you have to apologize, you have to pay, you have to do those things. But getting yourself to be a person who never even gets to the point, that is somebody who is a chassid in nizaken. And the next one is mili da'avois. And mili da'avois, we said, is somebody who follows the lessons in the dictum that is taught in Perkei Avos. And that is shleimus beinoi, right? That is a shleimus of a person who is sholem between him and himself. Sholem beinoi levein atzmoi, to improve your midos. A person who's constantly, when your midos are not good enough, you're uncomfortable. So you want to improve yourself. That is sholem beinoi levein atzmoi, where you work on yourself. And even things that are things of hana and taiva, and things that you're being led astray by the Yetzer Hara a little bit, and it has nothing to do with hurting others. Things that are just taivas, things that if you do them, you're not really damaging anybody else. That is sholem beinoi levein atzmai. Nobody knows about it. You're the only one who really, really knows yourself. That's the second part of morale. That's the second part of a way, and another also plugs into the Gemara. Second way of a person becomes a chassid. And the third way is mili de brachos. And that is the third thing of the morale. It's the Gemara, and the Nesivos Shalom says, mili de brachos means where a person understands that sholem beinoi uvein boiroi, where you're at whole with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you understand that nothing you earned, or nothing you do in this world, or any money that you have, or anything that you accomplish in your life, it has nothing to do with you. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was good to you. And for some odd reason, He chose you to make you the person that excels, and be it in finance, and be it in anything else. Sholem beinoi uvein boiroi. So you make brachas, and you understand that whatever happens in your life, you have to bless, and you have to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And those are the three things that we've mentioned in the Gemara, where you know that everything comes from Hashem, and you thank Hashem for it. So the point is, when the Gemara says chasida, the Gemara says a person wants to be a chassid. What does it mean? It's telling you the idea of lifnim mishuras hadin. Not to just be a person who, I play by the rules, I pay back, and I just don't do too many things wrong. No. It's called working on yourself more than the halacha. To make yourself into a person that never gets to the point where you have to follow the halacha to pay back. Where you're giving a nachas ruach to Hashem. You're not just following the rules. You're giving Hashem a lot of pleasure. You're doing a nachas ruach to Hashem. And even when things are technically mutter, you rethink them, and you think them through, and you say, is this something, does it smell right? Is this something that will give HaKadosh Baruch Hu nachas ruach? Is this something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will really enjoy that I'm doing? And what we see over here, and the lesson that I want to pull out of this, and yes, we have sholem bein atzmoi and bein boiroi and everything, but what I want to bring out, the lesson over here, is that sometimes we think, and we learn that bein adam lachaveroi, we think bein adam lachaveroi means that if you just get along with your friends. And you know what? Sometimes you have to do lifnim mishur sadin. We have to work on ourselves that we're not just getting along, and we're not just paying back. Hi man, the boy lemeve chasida. You want to be a chassid, you have to work on it. You have to work on your bein adam lachaveroi to where you're not just a good friend that knows how to apologize. You're a good friend and one that works on yourself so much that you'll never get to the point where you will come to hurt somebody. Where your instinct is, I can't even go there because there's a chance that I may hurt somebody. And that is a beautiful explanation in this Gemara Baba Kama, that talks about, that goes on this week's Parsha when we talk about Nizakin. So when we lay in the Parsha this week, remember that when you read about all these things about damaging people, think of this Gemara, what it means to be a chassid in every aspect of your life.